Hello and happy Thursday, everybody. Josh here with On the Wrong Lead. Another fun episode of On the Wrong Lead Live, and we're going to go ahead and handicap this late pick five for the Alabama Day. And there's absolutely no way that any of these races get taken off the turf. Weather is going to be beautiful. I am actually, you know what? No, it's definitely going to rain. Everything's coming off the turf. I am doing an anti-Matthew DeSantis here. I am not going to throw the weather forecast that looks like there's absolutely no rain in sight, only for the last two races to be taken off the card. I'm not going to put that out in the world. But somebody who also is not going to put that out into the world, Mr. Mark Capitan. Mark?
Yeah, I won't put that in the world. I mean, clearly the weather forecast does not say that there's no rain in the forecast the rest of the week, and it's only going to rain on Sunday. That's not at all what the weather forecast says. Clearly, go by the guy on Twitter who is putting out his doom and gloom, and there's going to be 8 inches of rain or whatever it was, and everything's going to be rained off. The meteorologist to the horse tracks, or what's his face? What's his name?
I mean, hey, look what happened today. We thought we were free and clear, and then boom.
Yeah, there was a slight chance of thunderstorms. I do think that they kind of overreacted today. I mean, it rained for what 5 or 10 minutes. I mean, yeah, they got a little water, but the surface did not take that much water, right?
All right, I'm gonna bring the most positive person in our trio, Mr. Caleb Knight, in here, who has absolutely nothing bad to say about track conditions or tracks or pick fives being taken off after they start or anything like that.
I mean, yeah, if anybody knows me, that I am the ray of sunshine and positivity of this group. So, yeah, I think we'll have lovely weather. If the rain comes, it'll probably be refreshing because it's probably going to be hot. And yeah, I'm sure that nothing wrong could possibly occur. Definitely no chance of off the turf, and even less chance of canceling stakes races because of cowardice. So yeah, I think it's going to be partly cloudy with a chance of disappointment.
You mean canceling stakes races, pushing them to the following week, and then canceling them again? You mean that, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and then running the Troy on the dirt anyway.
And then try the dirt anyways, because of course, right?
Like it sucks. Obviously you can't control the weather, but yeah, I don't know. Like sometimes I question the decisions made, but I mean, I am not a track superintendent, nor a veterinarian, nor a jockey, nor a horse. So that one I'm sure of. So I can't really tell why or what happens. What happened a couple weeks ago was obviously really unfortunate, with basically 2 out of the 3 pick fives getting canceled. You don't want to see that happen, and obviously Naira doesn't want to see that happen, so they only make that decision if they have to, because that's a huge amount of handle there that they lost. But all kidding aside, today was kind of frustrating. I got my pick five in, and get through that first leg with a nice price, and next thing you know, my pick five turned into pick 3, and I got busted anyways because
after they lost all that handle from the pick fives getting canceled, essentially they had to make it up by the classic run the first leg of a pick five, then take them off the turf move.
Oh man, Mark, what were you gonna say?
Nah, nothing. I got nothing.
Well, let's talk about some positive news here. Caleb, I saw you sipping on something. What do you got over there? Is that a new bottle?
It is a new bottle. I actually I don't have it with me because I learned my lesson, and it's a bottle of Highland Park cask strength.
Oh,
so
nice.
Scotch actually today.
Nice, Mark. What do you got over there?
I got water. I'm horribly boring.
Okay, I did not follow Caleb. I brought the bottle in. It's a bottle of Barrel Dovetail, which is it's a bourbon finished in rum, port, and Cabernet barrels. So it's a nice. It's got a little bit of rum funk, a little bit of wine. It's nice. Something a little different. I pulled up the Elijah Craig barrel proof, and I was going to bring that down, and then I realized like I haven't been drinking that much, and haven't been drinking, bourbon a ton, and that would probably just absolutely destroy my throat, and I would not be able to talk. So I figured I'd go for something only 120 proof versus 130 whatever proof that the Elijah Craig is, but yeah, I mean. I don't know, man. It's been a tough couple weeks, but Mark, I know you, out of the three of us, have been playing Saratoga very, very consistently. And shout out to Dejan here in the chat saying rock and roll tonight, y'all. Thanks for the support there. And so, Mark, obviously you're probably the most consistent of the three of us. I know Caleb's been busy, playing Goodwill Hunting over there, and I've been pretty busy with work and haven't had a chance to play all that much. But what are you seeing with the way the track's been playing lately, with with the weather and everything like that?
Yeah, no, I think pretty much the whole meet, dirt speed has been very good. I think at all distances. I think that kind of trend sort of continues, and I think that the turf has become a lot more fair. I know that earlier on in the meet you just could not wire anything. You couldn't wire a turf sprint, and now you can. So I think the turf has been playing real fair. We haven't seen any of those crazy inner turf biases that we are prone to. We haven't seen one of those in a couple years. It's been a couple years since we had to really pronounce one of those. So, but otherwise, yeah. I mean, obviously it sucks when days get taken off. I felt really bad for Caleb and his whole group, his dad, and our buddy PDT, who came up, and they come there for Whitney, and they were hoping to see some really good turf stakes, and it gets rained off, and well, it didn't even get rained off; it's just canceled, which sucks. So, it sucks that that's what it is. But no, I think the turf. I think that the course is playing a little more consistent, especially on the turf, and dirt speed's good. So it's back to kind of normal Saratoga.
Yeah, like I said, I've been pretty light, and today, drinking champagne. Obviously, we handicap the Thursday pick fives usually, and so today I thought I had a pretty strong opinion in the early one. I really like that 5 horse that won the opener, so I had a nice little win bet on it, and
Start late, right?
Started late, thank you, and in the opener for the late, and get through the second leg with I think it ended up being the chalk. But realizing, hey, they're taking this thing off, and I thought I had a live one going in, and then obviously my single kind of petered out. But yeah, like that kind of stuff is frustrating. Obviously, on a personal level, I understand Caleb's frustration, especially traveling for a meet and having the marquee races canceled and stuff moved around, and Caleb can't bet the middle pick five or the late pick five, and he's just he was just in all sorts of trouble last weekend, I'm sure. And then this week, I mean, I have a bunch of friends going up this week, and they're gonna we'll see how the weather holds out for that, but we don't want to be all doom and gloom here. Obviously, some good stuff is happening. We've had some really cool races. Obviously, we've seen some really, really nice horses, and obviously next week we got the Travers, where we're going to see Torpedo Anna take on the boys, which is going to be the takeout reducer of the meet, but it's going to be a fun story. So, Mark's cheering. What are you cheering on?
I just need the 6 to hold second.
Is it the one? Is it the 1 and 6?
Yeah, one. The 2 is I think in the middle though.
But yeah. So yeah, I mean, like we said, there's only so much you can do about the weather. But we're not a weather podcast. We're not a weather channel. Let's get talking about some racing. Yeah, we have a decent card here. Obviously, the late pick 5 starts in race 8. And we're going to start with a 1 1/8 on the main track here. We got a full field of 10. Your morning line favorite is the 10 timeout at 5-2. Donegal Surges at 3-1. I don't know. It gets kind of flat after that. 6-1, 8-1, 9-2. and then some double digits on the rest of them there. But Mark, I'll let you start us off as Mr. Saratoga himself. Oh, and before we get too far into it, obviously we're covering Saturday's card, but if you want some plays for Friday's card, check out Mark was on with our friend Chase Sessoms, the Wolf of Oak Lawn, and all his AI art glory. You can check that out on Notorious OTB, wherever you get your podcasts. So check that out, Mark. I gave it a listen, and
Thanks.
and it was good stuff. So we'll let you start here. Race 8. Where did you land?
Yeah, no, Chase is always a good time to talk with, a fun guy to talk with, and always appreciate being on his stuff. But no, I think I'd mentioned that Dirt Speed was good, and kind of looking at this race, I don't know if the 6 Rocketeer ends up on the lead, or kind of, but is going to be part of that early pace complexion, and this is one of the ones that I know can get this trip in here. I think some of the other speedballs might not be able to get it, and obviously Brad Cox, he's been running real well up here, adds blinks to this one, so I would imagine the intent is to be very forwardly placed, and that's adding blinks is a phenomenally good move for him. Gaff takes them out, so I expect Rocketeer to kind of be part of that pace complexion early, and I think is one of the major players on the front end. Other horse I really liked in here was the 10 Timeout, who I know you had highlighted when we when you first brought it up. Another one of these Bill Mott slowly developing horse, comes out of that Curlin, really ran a fine Curlin and gets some class relief in this spot. So I thought that those two were the two most likely. I realized they're shorter priced horses. I had some prices in here I liked, but I'll let you guys talk first before I dunk at anybody's horses. But see where you guys landed.
Yeah, I was right there with you on Rocketeer. I think that this horse has got some tactical speed. If you look at some of the other races, obviously the Matt Wynn in particular, is able to get the lead at second call, and just unfortunately did not have enough. That second quarter was a little bit, I think, too fast, and kind of maybe fell apart a little bit there. And had a little bit of a kind of even trip here at Saratoga last time out. But yeah, I just think that tactically, I think Rocketeer is going to be pretty tough in here. Briz loves this horse. Briz has got great speed figures. Has got those uplining speed figures that keep getting better and better. Obviously, number 1 on Prime Power. I think EP6, I think, kind of has him as right up there with maybe a horse like the 4 Bank Frenzy is vying for the lead. So I thought the 6 tactically made a ton of sense here, and I think a little bit of a play at a longer price. And my only other horse I'm really using in here is going to be the 2 Digital Ops for Chad Brown and Flavian Pratt here. Inside drawn speed, just always dangerous. Now last time Dylan Davis was able to win this one and wired it, and there's a couple of question marks. I think you gotta. This is not a horse I would take a short price on, because you look at that last race, you look at the fact that you're going a 1 turn mile, doesn't necessarily look all that fast, and the pace wasn't all that fast either. 23-1, 46-3. But interestingly, like I said, there's not a ton of need the lead types in this race, so not necessarily maybe worried about those races being too slow. But obviously, this is a horse that was drawn on the rail June 24th. I'm sure Caleb will be able to tell me whether or not that was a hot rail day or not. But just something to think about. That Aqueduct track can get a little funky there. But I see Flavian Pratt get aboard. A Chad Brown horse. I just assume the horse is pretty well meant, and it does have to improve a lot. But I think you're going to get your chance to kind of get a price here on this horse and not take a short price. I'm going to toss the 10 just because, obviously I'm trying to get a little bit of value out of here. So I'm going to key in through the 6. The 10, I mean, maybe could win, but, last time finished 3rd by 4 lengths. And that speed figure on Briz came back really fast, but I always question when I see a horse come back and really improve on their last speed figure in a stakes race, but not necessarily like. I mean, he ran third, so I guess it's not that bad. But he ran third by 4 lengths. Uh, I don't know. This is a much easier spot, so maybe that's still good enough here. But as a short price favorite, I'm going to look elsewhere. Caleb, what did you think?
Yeah, this is a race that honestly, I don't think you could point out a single horse that I would be like, oh, that's a terrible pick. And I just really had a tough time landing on any horse with conviction in here. And surprisingly, I landed on a horse that I would almost never routinely end up using, I think. And I'm hoping the lines are remotely right, although I'm kind of skeptical of that. The number 9, Donegal Surges, coming in off of a absolutely massive figure last time out. And the question you have to ask yourself as a handicapper is, where did that come from, and is it real? Because if he runs anything close to that race again, then the rest of this field is essentially running for second, and it's not even a close second for that matter. So when I kind of glanced at Donegal Surges at first, I was like, well, I mean, that's probably a fake figure. But judging off the runbacks, I mean, Drake's Passage came back to get third next out in the Brooklyn against Next, who's, obviously just completely dominant in that division, recording a similar, if slightly slower figure as he did in the win in the commentator stakes here. And, it doesn't seem like the figure is all that bad from the limited number of runbacks. And then I'm like, okay, well, maybe it's just a sloppy track or the muddy surface moved him up. But he's also caught off tracks before, and if anything, he appeared to be better on a fast track than an off track. So the only thing I ended up landing on is that perhaps this horse is just much better going around 2 turns. This is his essentially his first try going 2 turns, and perhaps that just unlocked something with this horse. They figured something out that this is really what he wants to do. And maybe he is just a significantly improved animal going this 9 furlong distance that a lot of horses just can't really handle. So if he was going to be 7-5, which is I was afraid of, then yeah, I don't need this horse. But if he's going to be 3-1 and not even the favorite at 3-1, then I think he's a horse that I could be more than okay with using pretty prominently in a race that I really struggled to get a great handle on.
I was going to make a joke because I was hoping nobody was going to pick that horse. And I was going to make one of those, yeah, I wouldn't bet that horse with Caleb's money. And apparently Caleb's going to bet that horse with Caleb's money. So first off, I'm pretty sure a mile deduct is a 2-turn race. So he has gone around 2 turns before. And
it's not.
It's not? Is it?
No.
Is it only a...
It hasn't been a 2-turn race since they took out the inner track.
Okay. Sure. Okay. But beyond that is the fact that, big figure in a losing effort, and a horse that just looks like he freaked on the off going. I mean, and that's the only thing I can come up with. And he's just a horse I want absolutely no part of in that race. I realize, I stretched him out a little bit, but it seemed like it came out of nowhere. I just think that's an extremely suspect fig, given how much of a massive top it is, and it was just part of his kind of normal form cycle. He just, again, I'll agree with Josh. He's just a takeout reducer in this spot, and I want absolutely no part of him.
I mean, I can understand the skepticism, but you can't just say he freaked on an off track when he hasn't freaked in his previous off tracks. And this is a 3 furlong stretch out. It's not like he's going from 6 to 7. I mean, that's a huge difference that a large improvement in performance I think could be warranted. They clearly like this horse enough to keep running him in stakes company. So, I mean, again, I'm not saying single this horse and he could finish out the back, but, I think there's reasons to be at least optimistic that actually was genuine improvement and not just a crazy aberration.
I mean, maybe. Just seems like an odd point in his 4-year-old career to find a new top at a new. I don't know. It just feels super off to me, and it's just one of those ones I just kind of want no part of him. Donegal Surges? I'm not sure. I'd have to look.
I did see that Charles. Before you get into your other horses you liked, Charles likes the 5 here. Mark, was that one of your bombs that you liked?
No, I did not. Actually, we landed on the same price, Josh. That 2 horse I really liked.
Oh, okay.
So Charles's horse, the 5. We were at Saratoga that day. I mean, me, Mark, and some of the other guys. probably one of the strongest rail biases of the meet. This horse took full advantage of it and was still kind of life and death to win. Excellent ride by Dylan to really ride the bias there, but he would need to find a lot to repeat that against less favorable conditions. So probably not for me. But I guess to talk maybe just slightly more about this race, because I'm curious, because I really struggled here. I mean, you look at horses like Bank Frenzy, you look at horses like Game Warden, on Brisnet, on Time Form, they're just as fast as anybody. So why can't they win this race? I mean, why Rocketeer at 9-2 or Timeout at 5-2, who's no faster than horses like Game Warden or Bank Frenzy?
Well, I mean, if you think that the figure is correct on Donegal Surges, don't you just single Donegal Surges and move on? Like, do you really need anybody else? Because if that's your take in this race, then his last figure is so much faster than everybody else in here. I mean, it's not a flat race anymore. It's just a one horse race. If that's your take, right?
Yeah, but let's say that you don't believe the figure. I mean, why can't Game Warden or Bank Frenzy win the race? Because I mean, I'm struggling with these horses. They don't seem to show up against better company, but against the kind of the claimers, or the starter allowances, they run really well. So I mean,
no, I agree with you. I think you could make a case if you think that figure on the 9 is suspect. You could make a case for 6 or 7 horses in here very easily. It's a very flat race. You could find some prices you liked. I was tending to try to find some of the more lightly raced horses. I thought the 2 head upside that Josh had mentioned and horses like that. But I agree with you.
Yeah, maybe we're getting a little too cute here, but no, I do agree with you, Caleb. I thought that if I were to go deeper in this race, I think you kind of highlighted the 2 other horses in here that I'd be interested in, which is the 4 Bank Frenzy and the 7 Game Warden. The 7 Game Warden, second time out of Sappy's barn in Norm Cassie's barn, ran a lights out race. Won by a length and a quarter. I mean, that Briz figure is huge. I don't know what it looks like on DRF or Time Form, but he beat a horse in Yo Daddy, who I actually kind of like in a later race in the sequence. So that might be one. If you're looking to go a little bit deeper, I think definitely Game Warden in here. I'm not really sure if. They didn't really go all that fast that race, so I don't know necessarily if Game Warden's a horse that needs a setup. But the 4 Bank Frenzy, I don't know, that's kind of a bit of a little bit of a tougher one. I think it's coming off a pretty long layoff on a barn change. Maybe there's a couple of other things stretching out. Has won going this distance before, but that was on a sloppy track where went wire to wire and basically just embarrassed the field by opening up by 5 lengths and just never looking back. So I don't know. I guess I could see Luis Saez maybe trying to take this one wire to wire. But I think the layoff and the barn change is a little. I don't know. It's got me questioning a little bit on whether this is going to be a horse that's going to fire fresh. But
by the way, it was Donegal Forever that scratched today, not Donegal Surges.
Too many Donegal horses.
Too many Donegal horses. Yep.
Anything else on this race? Before Caleb's right, and we're just like all fighting.
Oh, I figured I was going to put that horse right in the winner's circle.
Yeah, when Mark already has like a planned dunk on a horse, you can already just assume that horse is winning. So, but we're gonna be going to some graded stakes racing here. The Lake Placid going a mile and 16th on the inner turf here, presented by Caesar Sportsbook, and we have a nice full field of 11. We have 3 MTOs. Let's hope we don't need them. But I'm going to assume that we're going to be, on the turf for this race. And we'll may the chips fall where they may. Mark, maybe you've already handicapped in case this does. No, you haven't. In case this gets washed off.
I probably should, because if I do handicap for off track, then it won't rain.
Then it stays on.
It stays on. So
yeah. PDT asking if everybody faded Classic Mark today. Terrible favorite.
Classic Mark.
Classic Mark. And then Charles actually mentioning a little bit about going back to the 9, talking about Lasix. I don't know, this horse has actually run pretty okay on Lasix, but so I don't know if he's talking about
Horses also run pretty okay, not on Lasix.
yeah, not on Lasix.
Yeah,
So
I don't necessarily think it's a Lasix thing. Yeah.
yeah. Mark, I landed on the 7. She feels pretty, which is pretty the square price in here, 2-1. I think if she runs her race, I think she's going to be pretty tough in here. The last race, the speed figure didn't come back all that great, but Cinderella's Dream did come back to win next out, and she finished third in kind of a blanket finish there. So I don't know. I think that this is kind of the classiest horse in this field. I think this is a horse that's proven itself, going 2 turns on the turf. And I just think versus the rest of the company, I think there's just a lot of question marks on some of these other horses that they're just not as proven as I think the 7 She Feels Pretty is, and I have a hard time using anyone else as an A, so I have her as a lone A. What did you think?
I kind of agree. Well, I guess when I initially capped this race, it's one of those. If you look at her figures on time form, she absolutely jumps off the page. She's 10 or 12 points faster than everybody else in this field on time form. So you sort of have that initial just, oh, okay, she's you single and you move on. Does look like she has a little bit of an every other type pattern as well. So this should be every race. And Sherry's Barn has been very, very good. I'm not worried about the trip with her. The extra 16th off the distance of the hilltop shouldn't be a problem. She has enough tactical speed that she's going to have herself really, involved early, and I think gives Johnny V a lot of choices with her about where he wants to place her. And I think she seems to be quite talented and kind of getting better. So she makes a ton of sense in here. And again, like I said, when I capped this, I was like, oh, geez, this might be the skinny race of the sequence. And I dug a little deeper, and I don't know what to do with some of the Euro shippers. Somebody like Beautiful Love, I think, is probably the more interesting of the 2 Euros. Her last race was a really, really nice one. I realize it's only a $47,000 allowance, but it seems like she's kind of putting the pieces together. She's got 2 wins going a mile. I got another one with the mile and 16th trip shouldn't be a big issue. And Charlie Appleby is 43% at Saratoga so far this meet, and he's 47% with his first-time shippers to the States. So, just on everything he brings kind of as a runner, I think that's the Euro that you sort of want to have in here. I was kind of interested actually in what Caleb's take was on both Beautiful Love and the other Euro that was in here, because I did like the other Euro a little bit, but I wasn't quite as sure what to do there.
Yeah, I kind of agree with Josh in this race. I think that She Feels Pretty is just too good for this field. She's less than a length away from being undefeated in all 5 of her career starts. She ran well against Cinderella's Dream. Cinderella's Dream is just really good, and that was a bit of an ambitious spot as she tried to stretch out from a mile to a mile and 3/16. Found the distance to be maybe just a bit too far for her. Cut back here is just absolutely perfect, getting her back to a mile and a 16th, where I think she wants to be. She did have somewhat of an advantageous racing flow in that Belmont Oaks, where there wasn't a whole lot of passing going on, with the exception of Cinderella's Dream. But nevertheless, I think that given her overall body of work, all the way back to her 2-year-old season, where she was beaten just ahead by Porta Fortuna, who's been a very nice European runner as well, I think she's just much, much, much the horse to beat in here. I do think Beautiful Love is a little interesting. She ran well in her last little allowance race at Dubai, and then she was beaten 2 lengths by Cinderella's Dream in the race prior to that. So I do think that you kind of have to respect anything that comes out of the Appleby barn, but I don't think there's any value with that opinion per se, given that I do think the 7 is very much the horse to beat. Also, don't love Manny Franco getting the mount, and nothing to do with Manny Franco, but typically, when Appleby has a live one, Buick comes over or Pratt takes them out for a lot of the local runners here. But for him to go to Manny and for Pratt to end up, elsewhere on horses that, I'm not even sure I think have whole much of a chance. Like Greyosh, for example, kind of reading between the lines, I tend to think this horse might not be quite good enough here. So, oh, nice, we have a no Buick alert. Is that new? But yes, and then the other European you mentioned, the Clement horse. Again, I just coming in off of two nice wins over 6.5 and then as a mile. So I'm not too worried about the distance here. Clement does very well with these European shippers. But to me, the real question is just kind of what has she been beating out there in France. I'm not sure that this is truly the cream of the crop, and I do think she's running into one of the better local horses here with She Feels Pretty. At 10-1, I definitely think that's a playable price if you think that there's more there than what's on the form. But yeah, I think that she would need to find some improvement for sure.
Yeah, I didn't really give much credence to either of the Euros in this spot. Honestly, I thought if I was going to take a shot, and I have these both written down as Bs. We'll see if I end up using them. I had the two of the Chad Brown horses written down as Bs. I thought the two Greyosh, I thought was kind of an interesting horse. Obviously, breaking its maiden at Aqueduct earlier this year. Winning by open lengths, and then, in the Wonder again, maybe just a little bit in over her head there, and came back in an optional claimer, here at Saratoga, and really, really improved over the last couple of races, and took a pretty big step up. Now, obviously, we're still talking lengths behind what the 7 She Feels Pretty. I almost called her I Feel Pretty. She Feels Pretty ran. So we definitely need another pretty big step forward, I think, to be a player in this spot. But we've obviously seen how Flavian's been riding to start the meet. Obviously, Chad's been putting him on very, very live mounts. Seeing Chad Brown win a stakes race at Saratoga at 8-1, 10-1. I mean, like you hate to see it happen to you. So I thought Greyosh was in here with a little bit of a shot. Obviously, you're kind of squinting and hoping for some improvement. Obviously the shorter of the three Chads, the 10 dynamic pricing here, has a grade 2 win, the Edgewood on yielding turf, and I thought might be interesting in here if we do get a bit of cut in the ground. Since this horse has already shown that she can run on the softer ground, if the weather continues and we get some cut in the ground, I thought the 10, maybe has a little bit of an edge just because has that experience, has that grade 2 win over the turf there at Churchill Downs. But really, I'm sitting here just seeing if I can get around this 2-1, and maybe I'm being a little defensive here with my two Bs. But Dejan here, or Dehan, he likes Greyosh. And PDT, very impressed with your typing, Caleb. Says you're typing at least 800 words per minute. So, but I don't know. Who else did you look at in here, Mark? Anybody else?
Yeah, there's a couple others I was a little interested in. I think Caleb said all the things about Larray as the 6. And honestly, the Clement Barn is not good with his Euro firsters, but I thought it was really interesting that he's putting this one in stakes. I thought it's a very ambitious spot for that Euro firster. I don't know if that's a vow of confidence or if he's just taking a shot. But the Clement Barn also has not been at the normal Clement Barn, the Saratoga meet, so get the right price there. You probably have to get north of 10-1 for that one to be interesting. One I am a little interested in, though, is the one horse Deep Satin, and I don't know if this horse is just in there as a rabbit for the 7, but I think the 7 can make her own trip. It's not like she's a deep closer, so I would imagine Sherry's putting this one in with a chance. Sherry's Barn's been crazy live all meet, specifically on turf. And what was the stat I found? Yeah, she's 8 for 41, so 20% with a $2.63 ROI with last out maiden winners on turf. or last out maiden breakers on turf coming right back. I realize only I think one of 8 or something were in a stakes, so this is deeper waters. But I wonder if this one is a little bit more live than the morning line kind of implies. And she is a horse that has taken 3 steps forward right in a row. And on the inner, historically, the 1 and 2 paths were where you wanted to be. If you had a little bit of tactical speed, kind of cut the corners and save the ground on the inside. So she might end up trying to tripping out, and I don't know if Jose goes to the lead with her. He may, and try to slow this down a little bit and kind of steal it on the front end. So I thought Deep Satin was a little bit of an interesting price in here. Other one I was a little interested in is the 5-horse Spaladay. I realize the wins are not in the classiest of company, and the Saratoga effort was fine, but not that great. But Frankie takes them out. He's had a couple of good ones, and if you're looking at time form figs, Spaladay's last 2 are both faster than everyone else that isn't named She Feels Pretty in this race, and you're getting 12-1 on her. So if you trust in time form and kind of close your eyes a little bit, she's an interesting player in here, at a bit of a price.
Yeah, and I brought up the optics plot real quick. Obviously, we have MTOs in here in the 13, 14, and 12. So you kind of got to do the math in your head a little bit and kind of pretend they're not there. I mean, yeah, She Feels Pretty looks like she's looming pretty large here in this spot. So I do think she's going to be tough to beat. So maybe I'm, like I said, I'm getting a little too cute trying to use some B's. But
Well,
Caleb, was there any other horse you want to talk about here? Or
No, I mean, I think you raise an interesting point. If the turf is pretty soft, maybe you upgrade a horse like dynamic pricing. But I do think with Chad Brown and Irad Ortiz, there's not a lot of value in that opinion. So I'll probably be single to She Feels Pretty. I think she's much the best here.
Mark, sorry,
I would imagine the race in the sequence where you create value is this one if you can get around She Feels Pretty. And the other thing I was going to mention about your optics plot is the fact that optics plots are relativistic, so it's relative to the other horses in the race. With €2 in here, you don't have a plot for them, right? So not that I expect them to be forwardly placed or really shake up the pace complexion of the race a ton, but it does make it a little bit harder to use optics in a race like this. As much as I do love optics, phenomenal product, not trying to bash it at all. Just something to consider.
All right, let's move on here to race number 10, the Alabama. Actually, I can't do Forrest
Roll
Gump.
Tide?
So
Roll Tide.
no,
Just
not
strap a
Roll
Roll
Tide.
Tide.
No, not Roll Tide.
Roll
We're gonna be
Tide.
going 1.25 miles. No, we're not rolling Tide. I refuse to roll Tide. I refuse to eat a Tide Pod. I refuse to. No. 1.25 miles here, Alabama, grade 1 for fillies, 3 years old, and we got a real short price favorite in the 7-5 for Candied here, coming in here, coming off of second place in the CCA Oaks, where she finished second to Torpedo Anna. Obviously won a listed stakes and. It's got a grade 1 win in the Alcibiades last year as a 2-year-old, but coming in here as a 7-5 favorite, probably justifiably so compared to some of these other horses. But I don't know. I'm gonna try and beat Candied here. Surprise, surprise. Mark, what about you?
I'm also going to try to beat Candide in this spot. I think there is some pace in this race, but there's not a ton of pace. And I think Candide needs a bit of a setup. And I don't really know if she's going to get as much setup as she did in that CCA Oaks, where there was a little bit more speed signed on for her to close into. So I went other directions. I don't know. Do you want me to go first? Do you want to go first? How do you want to do this?
I mean, I assume that if you're thinking what I'm thinking, we're on the same horse.
We're both on Miss Justify then?
Oh, we're not both on Miss Justified.
Oh,
But you can.
okay.
I have Miss Justified as she's my second choice. I have her
Yeah.
as a B. I have a lone A and I have a lone B in this race. Miss Justify is my B. So talk
Yeah,
to
no,
me.
I Miss Justified was my play in here. I think they, if obviously she two back, she went to the lead and just wired a field going a mile at Churchill, and that optional 100, and yeah, and she does have a little bit of a baby Z pattern in there in her last, where she got up in the Wilton, which was kind of her local prep. So she handles the surface. I think they can go to the lead with her if they would like to, but I don't think they necessarily have to. She just clearly shown she can pass other horses, but she's going to be one of the couple in here, part of the pace complexion, and I like her being forwardly placed. I think she'll stretch out just fine. I don't think the distance will be any problem for her, and she should justify on top. So shouldn't be an issue there. And I like the fact that she's got a nice little two-way race win streak going. You're getting Flavian Pratt, who's been riding phenomenal, and it's interesting. She's managed a little bit odd for Todd, but she's a horse that's gotten better every start, and she seems to be kind of really finding her form. So yeah, what I was trying to imply, Josh, is he didn't throw. Normally when they kind of break their maiden, he tends to throws them a little more in the deep end. He's pretty aggressive. He tends to be fairly aggressive. And this one, he's just kind of optional 75, optional 100, and then put her in the Wilton for a black type stakes. He's just kind of moved her forward a little more slowly. This reminds me of how like a Bill Mott would tend to campaign a horse, a little bit more of that slow progressive move, which I really really like. So I don't know if he just didn't know what he had, or maybe I'm overthinking it. She's just not that good, and he's just going to have been surprised by her last two. But I really like her in here, and I think she's probably my top pick in this race.
Well, my surprise face was because you said odd for Todd, and I just thought that you were a poet and you didn't even know it.
Oh.
So,
Okay. I'm not that witty.
Caleb, you already know who I got in this race.
The 3,
Absolutely, babe. No, not the 3. What? The 2.
the 2.
The 2. Why do you think I had the 3? Power squeeze.
I don't know.
You're
You
just
got
guessing?
that E8.
Yeah, the 2, baby. Got an E. We got an 8. We got the 3 cherry horse here. And, obviously won the Indiana Oaks last time out, basically going wire to wire. Did get headed a little bit here. And I see Charles saying the 2 is interesting in here with Glatt coming from Horseshoe. This is one that every time she's gotten the lead, she's won. You look back at the Chandelier, obviously won there, and then won the Indiana Oaks both times at second call, had the lead. It has one going off the pace. Obviously, that was the debut at Del Mar going 5.5. But yeah, I think that this horse has shown some decent speed. I mean, obviously, it has gone faster earlier. Last time, I think, got away with a little bit of a candy ass trip, I mean, if you look back at some of the other races, it has set some pretty honest fractions. So I'm not really too concerned about that. And I mean, what the heck, has shown some versatility as well, finishing second in a listed stakes on the turf. So just a real versatile type horse. You get Frankie getting aboard here once again. I just think that if this horse can get out there on the lead and is going to kind of just play catch me if you can, I don't think distance is a problem, obviously, with Gunrunner on top. So 8-1, I'll take a shot with Chatalas here, seeing if I can go wire to wire. Okay. Mark, I do like your 6, Miss Justify. Like I said, I have a lone B. I think that last effort was really good. The local prep here, the little baby Z pattern, just makes me feel all kinds of feelings on the inside, and coming back to win on that. And like you said, has been tactical, right? Has won coming from off the pace, whether or not that was intentional or whether that was just missing the start, and has won wire to wire. So, I think that this is one that's going to be forwardly placed, and I think that we got a couple of shots here to try and beat Candide. Caleb, are you going to be a chalk eating weasel and be the lone dissenter here, or what?
I am not. No, I do not like Candide in this race. I've just never thought a whole lot of this horse. I think she's fine, but I think that 7-5 is a horrible price. I don't know that she goes off quite that short. I mean, maybe she does, but I mean, I think 2-1, 5-2 is probably a bit closer to where I would maybe put her. And yeah, I don't even like her at that price. So I don't think she gets the right setup here. I wasn't in love with the way she was finishing off her last couple of races. So I don't need Candide in here. What is going to be a short price. Both of the horses that you guys mentioned with the the 2 horse and the 6 horse Miss Justify. I like both of them. The 2 definitely needs to run a lot faster, but I do like your point, Josh, about when this horse gets the lead, she's been dangerous. Mark Glatt, a very high percentage guy out west, thinks enough of this horse to send her to Indy and then send her all the way to Saratoga. Appears to have been working quite well recently. So, I mean, lot to like there, especially when you look at the fact there isn't a ton of pace in this race. Miss Justify, I mean, her last race was excellent. My question with her is a lot of speed and not so much stamina on the bottom of that pedigree. I really don't know if she's going to be able to manage a 1.25 miles. This is a big test for her, but she is one that I think does have a lot of natural ability for sure. The horse I actually liked that I kind of put Josh on inadvertently was the 3 Power Squeeze, who really I think is going to kind of like the unsexy horse in here, who just always shows up with a good effort. I mean, would be coming into this race on essentially a 7-race win streak, if not for happening to run into Torpedo Anna in 2 of those races. Her Oaks was pretty poor, but it was a sloppy track, and it's the Oaks. I mean, she got killed at the break, got hung super wide, and still kind of ran okay. So, kind of draw a line through that one, and she's been quite good. I mean, by no means is she the leader of this division, but she always kind of shows up with a legitimate effort. She always puts in a closing run. And I think she's one of the few that I really think is going to relish this 1.25 mile distance. She just seems to always keep grinding and grinding and grinding away. Not the most explosive stretch runner by all means, but definitely one that seems that all the distance she can get is going to be her friend. And ever since they figured out that this horse wants to go longer and stretched her out from sprints to routes, she's been a completely transformed animal. So I think she's one that perhaps for smaller connections and coming in with maybe a little bit less upside than a few of the others, she's one that I could see getting kind of lost on the board here, going off at 9-2 or 5-1. And I think that she's will run better than that, and with a very good chance to win.
You didn't even mention the little baby Z pattern on the Acorn. That's a baby Z, right?
I mean, she lost 2 lengths. I mean, I wouldn't. That probably wouldn't influence my opinion of the horse much. But I mean, yeah, she did a little bit. Yeah. I mean, Miss Justified definitely has a more noticeable pattern there. But yeah.
Yeah.
PDT said "We the People," so I don't know if is that an actual horse in here or is he just?
It's a horse that I faded at 2 to 5 that cost me like a $12,000 pick 5.
Ah. So the Caleb.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else on this race?
Nope.
All right. Race 11 here. We got a mile allowance race in Chase's favorite configuration of all time, the Wilson Chute. What did he say? What's the saying, Mark?
He has a lot of sayings.
Something about shoot me in the Wilson Chute or something like that. I don't know. Or he wants to shoot the Wilson Chute. I don't remember.
He does not like the shoot. No.
No. So this was an odd race because I ended up with 4 Bs and no As. So I guess they're all A's. I'm not really sure. like I was just like going through and I'm like, this horse seems like a B type. This horse seems like a B type. And like I get through handicapping and right before we go on, I'm like, I don't have any A's in this race. So I think that kind of gives you a bit of an idea of my opinion in this race. But I will say the one I guess opinion I do have on this race is that I do not like the favorite, the 7 Unlimited Potential in this race whatsoever. That's the 5-2 favorite here. This is just like I got all kinds of just alarm bells coming off just looking at this horse's form. Obviously, it seemed to be a pretty consistent horse, speed figure wise on Briz, and then all of a sudden that 1 1/8 in that really soft claimer, right? I mean, we're talking a horse that was running in 100K maiden races, winning 100K maiden races, going immediately into a $127,000 allowance race, then getting dumped for $16,000, right? Which I mean, like whatever. It was Rapoli, like he can do what he wants with his money, right? Horse that was bought for $750,000. And was just dumped for $16,000, right? If you want, I mean, basically the horse went to TJ Maxx. Won that race by open lengths, but and Briz gave this a huge number, but way faster than anything that this horse has run before. just completely uncontested on the lead. I mean, at second call was first by 10 lengths, right? And now we're cutting the horse back. We're going to the Wilson shoot, and something, I see someone in chat asking about the post position bias. When we're talking about the Wilson shoot, I still think that you want to be inside on the Wilson
Agreed.
shoot.
Yep.
So now you're talking about a horse that's posted out in the 7 post. Now, granted, maybe does have the speed to just go out and grab the lead, from the 7 post. I mean, and if that happens, if they let this horse clear, and the horse wins at 9-5, I mean, whatever. I'll be Calebing my way in this pick 5. But I don't know. The fact that they dumped this horse for so little, going to Merkton's barn, who I think is a fine trainer, but like, automatically they're moving this horse back into allowance company. Like I don't know. This just smells. You know what I mean? This horse just smells like there's something's up here. And if this horse wins at 9-5 or whatever, so be it. So I kind of went with the post position bias, and I just basically started taking a look at the horses from the inside. I think Smilemon, the one, is your inside drawn speed, is cutting back, and I think he's interesting here from kind of a pace perspective. But really, if we're going to be honest, only has one race that kind of I think fits in here, and we're going all the way back to the Maiden Breaker at Ellis Park, right? So. Maybe we're getting 12-1. We're getting Ricky Gogo Santana aboard. Maybe we're gonna get a really aggressive ride here out of the one hole. Second time for Rob Atras, who's 25%. But Rob Atras has also been really really cold. Now obviously I'm saying negatives.
Rob Atras is always cold at Saratoga. This 1 for 16 he is this year. This is how he is every year. Rob Atras wins at 30% at Aqueduct, comes to Saratoga and is a 3 or 5% trainer. That's normal Rob Atras.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm saying these negatives, right? And you're like, well, why are you still betting the horse? I'm betting the horse because I think the price is going to be there, right? I'm going to take a shot at double-digit odds with this one. We'll come back to the 2, who's another horse I like here. I think the 3, Yo Daddy, I have a question mark on here, is probably one that I'll end up including. We talked a little bit about Game Warden earlier, and this horse finished second in the Game Warden, and I think, is going to have some work to do here closing, I think, from the shoot, but is going to be inside drawn, right? Is going to get a chance to get good position on the rail here pretty early on. So I think is the logical, second choice in here. Makes a ton of sense. I think the also inside drawn speed, who's the king, the 4, makes a ton of sense. I think this is one that could, if the 1 isn't that fast, or if just the horse doesn't break, I think obviously the 4, who's the king, has shown some really really good speed, has won going nearly wire to wire at Gulfstream Park, which is also just a freeway over there. So keeps Tyler aboard. Safi is just on absolute fire to start this this meet. Obviously, with less runners, I think, than he has in previous years. I feel like he's had a bigger presence in previous years, and I think maybe he's scaled back a little bit and only really sending who he thinks is live up here. Obviously, this horse finished 4th by 11 lengths, but I think the cutback's going to help this horse here, and is drawn inside and could be your speed of the speed in this race. So I thought the 4 in here with a huge chance. Now back to the 2. I like the 2 for a lot of the reasons I like another horse in this race, which is drawn all the way on the outside, and that's your 10 horse Pursuit of Power. And you're like, Josh, what do you like about these horses? Well, these horses have both run on this shoot, have both closed, and have both run really well. The 2 actually won going a mile out of the chute closing earlier this meet, and the 10 finished second here in this race. And I don't necessarily know if being 7 by 3 3¾ lengths was the plan last time out. I do note a little bit of trouble in the notes. I'll have to go back and watch the replay, see if there really was that much trouble. But the horse rallied pretty nicely, got second. Obviously second by 3 lengths, but that looked to be the best race speed figure wise that this horse has run. So I thought the 10 Pursuit of Power was a little bit interesting. Obviously the post draw kind of sucks. I think it's baked into the price. You're getting 8-1 here on a horse that has run really well in this configuration, even coming from off the pace. And then the 2, I think the 2 is really sneaky here. If we're talking pick and pray tournaments, the 2 is exactly the type of horse I'd want to take. 15-1 on the morning line. You look at this form. This form looks dirty as all heck. But then you just look at that one win out of this Wilson shoot and closing, and now you're getting an inside draw as well. I mean, I don't know. Maybe this is a little bit of a horse for course angle here for Unstable Prince. 1-for-1 at Saratoga. It was out of this Wilson shoot, and maybe we get lightning in a bottle here at a pretty decent price. So I got 5 horses I like in this race. None of them are the favorite. Maybe I'm getting a little too spready in this race, but I've had trouble with the shoot. Just like a lot of people have apparently. Our friend Chase included. Caleb, where did you kind of land here?
Yeah, we saw this race relatively similar, Josh. I also will let the number 7 Unlimited Potential beat me in here, and I'm not aggressively against the horse. If you tell me he's going to be 3-1, 7-2, I mean that's fine. But getting claimed off of Todd Pletcher when Pletcher finally decides to give this horse away, this is a horse that clearly had some soundness issues, missed a bunch of time, like we talked about. 5-year-old horse that kind of just now is starting to put it all together. He's probably too good for bottom level claimers. He's clearly not good enough for legitimate allowance company. Starter allowance company is probably about where he fits. I think this is a smart placement by Candramachi here. Whether or not he wins this race or not, I mean, remains to be seen, obviously. But I'll probably play against him because I think the price will be a bit too short, and he did have everything his own way in that last race. With that being said, I also agree with you that my top pick in here is actually the number 4, Who's the King. Like you said, all the reasons you highlighted, Josh. Safi's been on fire. This horse had a real rough trip in that starter allowance on July 27th, where he was kind of banged around. He couldn't get his forward position he likes to have. He gets impeded early on, and then just never really looked comfortable. It's encouraging that there's no drop and that Safi runs him back at the same level, that Tyler sticks around. Because his race, 2 back and that optional 100 at Churchill was extremely good. The Maiden Breaker was very impressive. That race in between, he did get a bit rank. So I'd like to see Tyler just let the horse go a little bit here. Use a little bit of horse early to secure a good position on or perhaps just off the lead. And then just let the horse settle and get comfortable. Because I do think this horse has a ton of natural ability relative to this field. Is only a 3-year-old, so lots of upside. I think with not super heavily raced. I do like the cutback as he has shown a tendency to get a little bit tired going a mile and an eighth or a mile and 16th. So the cutback here to the mile for the Wilson shoot here, I think really just it fits this horse quite well. And beyond that, I mean, I didn't really land on anyone else with conviction. I thought that your 1 looked okay, Josh. I thought that the 2 looked maybe a little bit too slow, but I do think his race 2 back at Saratoga was visually impressive, if nothing else. I am a little bit curious about the race that Yo Candy exits, the Game Warden race. I'll certainly be watching the results of that Game Warden race. I think in the first leg of this pick 5 it was that we talked about. Because I'm suspicious of that figure. That figure feels quite fast for the level. And that's why I said, why can't Game Warden win if you think that's a real figure? Because if it is, he's just as fast as those pretty strong allowance horses, which means that Yo Daddy should be competitive in that race and should be dominant in this race if you tend to believe some of those numbers. It's too early to say for sure that they are bad figures, but I think there's certainly reasons to be suspicious, as well as the fact that Linda's cooled off a little bit. She hasn't had the dominant meet that she had last year, and even since her Aqueduct meet, she's really kind of cooled off since then. So at 3-1, this is a horse that I'm a little bit probably against. But, again, not many horses in this race would totally surprise me if they win. Because I think once you get past, maybe the 4 and then the 3, if that figure is legitimate, I think that horses like the 6 and the 9 and the 10 all look pretty similar to me on numbers and on run style. So at that point, I really struggle to separate them. So I'd rather stay pretty narrow and kind of just go down with the 4 horse and then probably have the 1 Smile Mon as a B, both of whom you've already talked about.
Yeah, so I'll let the 3 Yo Daddy and the 7 Unlimited Potential both beat me. I think both of them. I think Josh mentioned all the red flags on Unlimited Potential. Couldn't agree more. And Yo Daddy just seems to hang. I don't know what the deal is, but the last 3 have kind of had hang jobs, and I don't believe the figure in that last race. To what Caleb was saying, I think that doesn't make a lot of sense. And I think we've also seen where I think I've seen this in another couple of other races. The race that we started off the sequence with, I think some of these Saratoga figures have come back and just felt way too high for what they were. And I just wonder if that's another one of these figures that, for some reason, Saratoga figures are kind of really dressed up for some reason. I don't know what's going on there, but it's felt like that all meet. Like a lot of
Yeah.
the figures come back hot.
Out of curiosity, what's DRF have that race? Do they have that race fast too, or time form?
DRF has it very fast. They have it as a 90, and
Oh
that's
wow.
much the best in this race. That's like 10. Well, Unlimited Potential ran a 92, so even a horse that ran a 90 and a horse that ran a 92, but both the same track. And I just don't believe the figures. I think the figures are coming back really hot.
That feels really
And it was
fast for the level. Yeah.
exactly, and it was a 111 time form for Yo Daddy, and then Unlimited Potential was a 115. Or sorry,
Yeah.
was a 102 was
Okay.
for Unlimited Potential. But like Yo Daddy ran a 111, but the fastest the horse had ever run on dirt prior to that was a 104.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's just these figures, they're coming out of nowhere that happen to be at Saratoga. I'm not trusting some of the speed figures I'm seeing coming from Saratoga on a lot of the products right now. With all that being said, completely agree with both of you guys on Smilemon, the one. I have the horse written down as an A. I like the early speed. I like Santana. Being a Rob Atras horse does scare me because he does. He's not known for being super live at Saratoga, but I think this one is a little different, and I don't know if they go to the lead with this one or sit just off, but I think Smilemon's real interesting. My top choice is the 4, who's the king, so same as Caleb in here. For all the reasons Caleb mentioned, I think this horse is a very interesting player in this spot. And the one horse that you guys didn't mention, or I think Caleb very quickly mentioned, was the 6 horse Have You Heard from Mike Maker. This horse has got a bit of an every other pattern. Broke his maiden, they threw him in in a no hoper turf race, and then came back in that optional 50 and ran a real nice race. And I think it's really interesting to see Arad staying up. After the last race, the horse went to the lead. I don't know really why they did, because that had never been what they had done before. I don't know if that was just looking at the race or the pace complexion or what happened there. I would imagine that the tactic this time is going to be sitting a little bit off the pace. And if I get somewhere around 10-1, yeah, I'd be very interested in Have You Heard. I think that's another interesting player in the spot.
Charles has the same feelings towards the shoot as Chase does. So,
Yeah, I mean, to somebody's point, they were asking about a bias in the shoot or a bias at the track. I do agree with what you're saying. I think inside drawn speed is very deadly in the shoot. If you have a horse that's got a lot of speed and is drawn outside and you can clear, you're fine. But those horses that get hung wide, that don't have enough speed to clear, do not tend to do well from the outside.
all right. So congratulations to the 7 horse Unlimited Potential
Exactly.
for winning this race, since we basically like every other horse in this race. So we're going to close it out with everyone's favorite, a turf sprint, 3-year-olds going 5.5 furlongs here on the turf. We have a full field once again. I got a couple of AEs. Looks like we drawn in 10 into the main body of the field. The 3, Heart of the Night, is sitting at 2-1. Your 2-1 favorite. Obviously, this is a night horse, so Caleb is all over it.
No, it's gotta have a K.
Oh, okay, okay. Yeah, this is a horse that hasn't broke his maiden in 6 starts, and has even had a barn change. Has gone from open maiden, fillies only, now into state bred maidens, and still hasn't gotten it done. Those are the types I try to beat. Actually, the 5 Beautiful Thief is even shorter at 8-5, and that's a George Weaver horse that ran at Saratoga earlier this meet, and ran okay, ended up finishing fourth by 2 3/4 lengths. The winner ended up coming back and winning, obviously that next race, and the horse that finished second, Heart of the Night, is also in this race. So um, I kind of I don't know. I kind of tossed both those horses. I wasn't really interested in either of them. Um, I went a couple of different directions. I have 3 horses total written down. I think my top pick in this race is drawn just outside of the morning line favorite, Beautiful Thief. That's a 6 horse, Naughty Destiny, for Christophe Clement, and the red hot Dylon, best jockey in New York, Dylan Davis here. And you know, they stretched this horse out to start, going straight for that 1.16 distance, and eventually they cut this horse back, and I think the horse kind of improved a little bit. Obviously, the first time out as a 2-year-old, finished third by 3/4 of the length, but coming back here for 3-year-old season at Aqueduct, finished third by 4 lengths on the cutback. Then they went immediately to Stakes Company for some reason, thinking, oh, maybe we'll get something, but obviously in a little bit over her head in that spot. So coming back here, getting Lasix again for the second time, and just I think kind of finding a softer spot here. I kind of like the 6 Naughty Destiny, kind of sitting that tracking trip. Does have a little bit of it has a little bit of speed to where I don't think she's going to get completely blown out of the gate. But it is definitely one that's going to be coming from off the pace. Obviously, Dylan's been riding absolutely lights out. So, and Christoph's been giving him some decent mounts here as of late. Christoph is not been off to a great start. Has only got, I think, 3 or 4 wins to start the meet, and I think Dylan's probably been on 2 or 3 of them, if I had to guess. He's gotten a couple of Christoph's good ones at least to start. So I like the 6. God bless Disco Partner. I mean, can we get this horse a damn win? Barefoot Disco here for Charlie Baker. Flavian Pratt sees fit to stay aboard, and that's doing a lot of, I think, the heavy lifting here for me. Tons of turf pedigree on the bottom, off of Wildcat shoes. I mean, just been off to a really good start so far as a sire. Unfortunately, Disco Partner still doesn't have a win here, but I think that this horse definitely took a little bit of or at least this horse has run well the 2 starts here at Saratoga. Maybe you would have liked to have seen the horse take a bigger step forward as a 3-year-old first time out, but it's clear they want this horse to win at Saratoga. They laid this horse up for an entire year. So, we'll see if second time up. I mean, Flavian stays aboard, and Flavian can basically ride whatever horse he wants at any point in time. So, maybe we get a little bit of a well-meant angle here by the fact that he stays aboard. And just because my absolute just like wild off the cuff horse that I kind of like here is this 10 Lantura. And Caleb, this is one of those horses that you're just going to be like, of course, right? I'm going to pull up the optics plot for this, and like, I don't know, man, this horse just looks humongous. Is this humongous square here on the optics plot of the horses that have been turf sprinting? So maybe the horses in this race are just that bad that they make this 10 look like he's just going to be closing like a freight train. But I've made dumber bets at 20-1, and when you look at these connections, I mean, I don't know necessarily if the likes of Oscar Barrera and who is the jockey? Danilo Grisales? Do you I don't know.
I rode the entire duct winter meet.
Okay, well, and I don't know if I put more than $10 through that duct winter meet. So, I I mean, hey, we got no name connections here, but I got a big old square, and at 20 to 1, I don't think I need much more. I mean, heck, even the 8 looks good on optics, and the horse has yet to really win one here. But yeah, I'm gonna try and get around those two short prices with a couple of horses here. But Mark, you shook your head when I said I was trying to get around the prices in agreement. So it sounds like you also don't like the short prices here.
Yeah, I don't like either of the short prices. I think Heart of the Night probably needs some class relief to get it done. The horse has finished, second or third, 4 of those 6 starts, and just feels like, I mean, maybe he'll or maybe she will eventually find a soft enough spot in a maiden special weight field, but it just doesn't feel like. I don't know. This is a very suspect maiden special weight field in general, but I just want to see some class relief from her, and she's the type of horse I think you try to beat in this kind of spot, and I think. Beautiful Thief. George Weaver's barn has been ice cold. He's 1 for 27 on the meet. The horse is your 8 to 5 morning line, and Javi sticks aboard, but I just that barn has just not been firing at all. And I think again another one of those types of horses you try to beat. For me, I'm really hoping there's a scratch or two in the body of this race, so some of the also eligibles get in. Horses I was most drawn to were the 11 Long Eyed Queen and the 12 Good Mission. Neither one of them have actually run on turf as of yet. Long Legged Queen ships in from Finger Lakes, gets the move from Heman Harkey to Louis Saez, which is a pretty darn big upgrade if you ask me. Horse has a lot of speed, and if Josh pulls up the optics plot, if you ignore the surf distance and just look at the standard optics plot, that's a big old square out there on a horse that has pedigree that says that turf should be pretty good. 8 to 1 on the morning line. I realize it's a nobody trainer. He's 1 for 20 on the year, but it looks like he's a newer trainer because one of his looks like a maiden second timer won. So hopefully that was to get a little condition on the horse, and this is where they were kind of targeting that ship to Saratoga. And it's a turfy pedigree. So I thought Long Eyed Queen, the 11, was my top choice, and I also think Arad hops on the 12. Good Mission for Rudy. Rudy's barn was very cold to start the meet. It started heating up in the last week or so, and this is another horse with some speed. First time in the barn off a claim for Rudy. I realize Rudy's not known for moving horses to turf, or that being a good angle for him, but I just really wonder if it's more of a distance situation in here where this one does not want to go much further than this 5.5 furlongs, and that's why they sort of landed on turf. So I thought the 11 and the 12 were the horses that I was most drawn to. I have a lot of question marks for most of the horses in the rest of the body of the race. I know Josh mentioned Barefoot Disco. I would love to see Disco Partner get a win, but again, Charlie Baker's barn has been ice cold so far this entire year, quite honestly. I know Flavian stays aboard, but another one that I just think is suspect. So I think most of the horses in the main body of the field are pretty just kind of question mark horses. So hopefully we get a scratch. The 11 draws in, and that's by far and away my top choice.
I mean, I feel like you have to pick someone that's actually going to run, though.
Do I?
I mean, presuming that there's no scratches, like, where would you go?
I'd probably go to the 6 Naughty Destiny.
Okay.
But I don't love the horse. I just, of the horses that are in the body of the field, that's where I'd land.
Okay. Yeah, I guess to the kind of the consensus here, I'm also against the 3 Heart of the Night. These are horses I just never like to bet. I think they're very exposed, and I don't see this horse getting any better. I'd much rather take a shot on a lightly raced horse that has more upside. I'm not as against Beautiful Thief as I think Mark and Josh are. Not my top pick, but probably my second choice in here, simply because I don't really see any speed in here. I mean, if Mark's 11 doesn't draw in anyway, then I really don't see any speed. At one point, the 9 Follow Your Arrow did have some speed last year, but hasn't been seen for a full year, and Lane Leslie gets up, and, fair to wonder what we're going to see out of that one off the layoff. So I do think Beautiful Thief, second time out, George Weaver's usually pretty good. I mean, every right to step forward, and might be controlling speed here. And if you recall, it was also extremely difficult to wire those Saratoga turf sprints earlier this year. So I do think that I'm not going to hold that one against her too much. But my top pick is actually Barefoot Disco in here. I mean, pedigree aside, I really liked the way she ran in that July 19th sprint. Yeah, that's a race that really held together on the front end. I mean, if you look at the running charts for that race, the horses who finished first, second, and third were second, first, and third at the first call. So essentially, the three speed horses didn't move at all. And this horse launched a big rally from 10th to actually pass most of the field and get up for fourth, which I thought was pretty impressive. That was off a year layoff, so has every right to step forward again here. Charlie Baker, not my favorite turf trainer in the world, but it is encouraging that Flavian Pratt sees fit to first take them out in the first place, and then also to keep them out here. And then a race where I think there's just a lot of horses that, truthfully, I would be very hard pressed to use. I mean, horses like the 2, like the 4. I mean, to some extent, maybe like the 7. It's kind of, I can throw out half the field pretty easily. So I think Barefoot Disco is kind of the lightly raced horse that showed improvement last out. Maybe see some more improvement today. Will need to get involved earlier. Certainly can't afford to spot the field 10 lengths, but if she can get a cleaner break, then I think she's one that is sitting on some improvement. So she's my top pick, and I do think Beautiful Thief does make some sense as well as my second choice here. Naughty Destiny, the Dylan horse that you guys both talked about, I also respect. Probably my third pick in here, so I like the horse as well.
He's back.
I'm back.
He likes Barefoot Disco. Mark,
He does. I mean, that's this is again, this is not the strongest maiden special weight I've ever seen. And I understand what Caleb's doing. A horse that definitely does still have some upside. We don't know, we don't know what that one is yet. If he landed on somebody like the 3, I would be, I'd be questioning his handicapping methodology there. But no, I mean, I get where he's coming from. I don't hate the 8.
yeah, I think this is a pretty interesting sequence. I think there's a couple of favorites I think that none of us like. So this probably chalks out and nobody makes any money. But hey, if we're right, we could be sitting on a decent one here. So before we go, Mark, I know like I said, I listened to most of your pod with Chase yesterday. There was one race where you had a very, very strong opinion. So I don't know if you want to give people a little bit of a preview of what you talked about on Chase's pod. There was one where I thought there was a price that you liked.
I don't know if it's necessarily a price, but the horse I would imagine you're talking about is in race 3, the 5 horse. And let me make sure I get the name right. Brown Eyed Cat. So
Yeah, that was it. Yeah.
That's the horse that it's 4-1 on the morning line. And if you watch the first race, horse broke his maiden, at first ask. At I think it was opening weekend of the Saratoga meet. Yeah, 11th of July, so that would have been opening day of the Saratoga meet. He basically broke out of the gate sideways, got pinballed, squeezed to last, and in a 6 furlong race, if you're watching him go down the backstretch, he's out of the frame. He's completely out of the camera. Javi got the horse to kind of settle, brought him over to the rail, comes around top of the lane, asked the horse, and the horse was, I think they was 16 lengths out the back or something crazy, like 15 lengths out the back. Snaps the horse just takes off, comes flying down the lane, rolls up and wins by a length, and did so looking pretty easily. It was a very, very visually impressive race. I added the horse to my stable, and that horse comes back here, in an allowance field, and in a pretty kind of salty competitive allowance field. There's a lot of different ways you could go here, but I don't think that the intent there was to break dead last by 15. I would imagine the horse to be much more forwardly placed, and if you do a little correction for basically spotting the field 15 lengths, that figure looks a lot better. So I'm hoping that one gets a little lost on the board, and I think that's a horse that you can build around in that race, one that I will be very, very interested in betting tomorrow. So I like Brown Eyed Cat quite a lot in that spot.
Nice. And obviously you can check out the $100 bankroll challenge that Chase does for every Friday. Mark was on that, so you can check that out in the Notorious OTB. Obviously, we did an episode Drank Champagne this week. Luckily, hey, one of my strong opinions, which was the that War Will horse that won. Let me give myself a little bit of pat on the back there. Ended up winning. Nice price. I think it was like 9-1 or
Very
10 to
nice
1.
call. Very nice call on that horse. You got your price there, and that was a horse that it's one of those ones that the gates pop and you look down, you're like, how did that horse get let go at that price? Kind of a horse. Like I assumed it would take money off the line. So very nice call.
Yeah, so that was nice. That basically made my day just with the win bet there, even though I got knocked out of the pick 5. I mean the pick 3. Sorry. Mark called it a double because, of course, he used the real short price favorite in the third leg that I tried to beat, and so I had a little bit of egg on my face. But thank you guys for hanging out with us. Obviously, check us out at ontherewronglead.com, at wrong_lead on Twitter. You can obviously at ontherewronglead.com buy T-shirts. We're trying to think of more ways to get some content out there to you guys. Obviously, we have Shot Tin starting up in a couple weeks, so you got to be Shot Tinning me. We'll be coming back with my friend Matt, and
So
obviously
wait, did you shot 10 if they're a Happy Valley as well? Is it still you got to be shot 10ing me if they're a Happy Valley? Or do we have to come up with a better name?
No, I don't know. We'll have to think of something that doesn't I don't know, it's Wednesday. It's Wednesday morning. I'm not going to wake up Wednesday morning to get my bets in, and Naira Bets unfortunately does not let me place my bets in overnight like Twin Spires does. So Naira Bets is going to get on it. I'm gonna have to make a call over to Matt.
We might know a guy that could help you out with that.
Man, I feel bad because we joked about the weather and how Matt predicted how nice the weather was going to be, and then he just jinxed it for everybody.
Well,
But
I felt bad for him. He actually messaged Caleb and I, and he wanted to come out and do a little short piece with us, on that weekend. And then the weather stuff.
then
all
shit hit the
happened,
fan.
and
Yeah.
he basically was like, "Sorry guys, I'm canceling all that." And I think he basically hid in his office all day because he was getting run over. When those kind of things happen, obviously it sucks for us as the players, but those guys who are on the media side and really client facing, it's really brutal on them. They get run over because they hear it from instead of hearing it, we hear it amongst our friends. They're hearing it from thousands of people who want to be at the track and watching the races and are pissed off that things didn't go how they wanted them to. So,
Are you playing League right now, Caleb?
No.
Oh, you were clicking like you were up there top lane trying to dance around a little bit. Yeah, shout out to Matt. Obviously, cheers, Matt. There's a little bit left of my whiskey there. We'll catch you guys next week. Good luck. Let's make some money this weekend, and we'll catch all you guys later.